Thank you very much, fellow conservatives. It's a pleasure for me to also have opportunity to push some buttons. I'll try to push the green buttons as fast as possible. So my subject is Rayhorn-O Seven. It's a bit enigmatic, but what I think it's under title, it's more interesting now. What do we really know about our collections? Museums in South Trøndelag, it's a consolidated group of 9 museums in which I work from 2013. There are different profiles, and then we have art museums, applied art museums, we have coastal heritage museums, we have mining museums, we have musical orientated museums, and we have open air museums. So, to present my case, I need to give a little bit of a context, a little bit of background. In the world, if you just Google simple things like plastics, museum plastics, you will find a lot of institutions that dedicate their resources, human and monetary, to research modern materials, and they really do a lot of work with them. You will find great, valuable, website, which is a project that is pop art, where you find a lot about plastics. Now you'll find damage atlases there. I mean, if you just Google the pop art and the address is down on a slide, it's a great opportunity. But what's really going on in those museums that don't really dedicate their main resources to the plastics? And why do I feel very often this way or this way? And that's because that's how my work is organized. I have, from 9 museums I work with, now I have 6 museums, they don't have conservators whatsoever. And they call to me, Peter, we have this. So pops up a guitar from a museum. So I mean, not exactly with a hammer I treat my objects, but no, it's approximately that way I'm organized. But now, let's talk about the guitar then, and let me present the a main host. It started with a change of exhibition, because the majority of my activities, they are related to exhibitions. So in a Rockheim Museum, which is dedicated to the modern and pop music in Norway, there was an exchange of exhibition. Oh, I might use that green button. It was exchange of exhibition that lasted about 5 years, I would say. It was built, as you say, on a usual industrial shelving unit, and the items just stood as they are. There was no plexiglass shielding it from the dust. It was just all over, and there were some not touch screens, but there were probably touch screens. So my object is here in the middle. And that was 2010, as you see on the date. So we changed it in 2015 into this one. There's proper quality museum display case, and where, most importantly, items are not on 4 meters above the visitor, but they're in a line of sight, so you can actually see what you read about. And the touch screens are quite informative, and each object is described on a touch screen. So my favorite is here, behind own touchscreen with own stories. So what's happening? I mean, very quickly, the Rayhorn-O Seven guitar, for us it's quite unique. It's been one of the 50 exemplars produced in the world. It is a signature model. You see the guy with the guitar, who is Robert Dune Norman. He's a leading electric guitar guitarist in Norway and jazz guitarist. And if you Google or YouTube, and I had a link to YouTube, but I don't have a time to send it now. It's a quite good guy. He produced his own first guitar about 39. He ripped off every telephone, like a kiosk in the city, to get the microphones out to produce his first guitar, just for a fun story side of it. And it was produced in a collaboration with Hornas Music from Oslo and Zero Sette, which is just translated O7. It's Italian producer of musical instruments. If you Google them, they're still producing those musical instruments. But it was an answer to the Gretsch guitars, the American guitars that were produced widely in the world. Project was unfortunate because it didn't go well, because the price for this one was nearly the same as for this one, so the people still were buying Gretches, but that's on the side of it. What happened? 2015, we have this situation here. We have first two strings, ENG, totally pulverized, disintegrated into the powder, and we have blue corrosion here, we have green corrosion here, we have rust here. We don't see the knobs here. Those knobs were also covered with the corrosion. So we were like, okay, what's going on? Let's check our catalogs. Do we have anything about the materials we have in a guitar? So I'm checking the catalogs. Now there is nothing about the materials whatsoever. Only thing I found in a catalog, that the guitar is finished in a cherry-colored lacquer. Good. So I was reading further and I found conservation report from 2012. And that's the magnification of what was going on there. Yes, and that's the picture through 2012. So it already happened, but it was not so strong, you see. So, but at least we see together like a rust, and we see the a copper or nickel or chromium corrosion. And also we can see here on that plate, it's sort of traces of the wet tissue that somebody used. And then I read the report, and in the report it was stated that this corrosion on the metal parts happened due to galvanic process. And then I asked myself, wait a second. And the galvanic means that the two metals involved, electrolytic, some environment, and only one of the metals corrodes. And that's the principle of it. And if you want to protect galvanically metals, one of them going to corrode, another not. And then it started raining questions, further questions. Okay, what's going on here? And that's the process, and was finished here with a conservation, and 2 months later it looked like that. So the corrosion was removed, and everything is clean and funny, like a well-looking like now. So question was, what really happened in those 3 years? And why we didn't notice that? So that's the first question was for me, it's why everything what's happening here is happening around that plastic part. Why the all metals, for example, further here, nothing happening. Those strings are all right. It's just the closest strings to the metal plate. Here and here, corrosion, everything that was in the proximity about 5 centimeters max was corroded now. And I found that picture, and then I paid attention to this detail here. It was like a crystal, so it's like a salt that gathered humidity. And then I asked myself, all right, and what's going on here? There is no traces on that plate of any destruction to it, but it's kind of salty. And then I mean, of course, it's 3 years later you think about such a thing, but that gave me a tip. So in 2015, looking closer to the plate, and I took it off, and looking closer to the plate, I found that it was cracks inside of a plate. So those dark ones here, there are cracks inside of a plate. They are not on the surface. On the surface, you see white scratches going here. So, of course, I've turned it around, and what I found like a major development of the cracklers underneath. I might need to use the red button twice. So you see here, that's the part here, and 3 years later we have this. So I've used the pop art. I'm using it quite often because I'm not only concentrating on a plastic material, so I need somebody to ask my difficult questions to. So pop art has damage atlas where all different damages are described. So I found very quickly, so that type of a damage, that cracking system might be over 2 products, either cellulose nitrate or cellulose acetate. Now we've talked about glasses, we've talked about different things on a workshop now with the plastics as well. So that was my idea to incline towards the cellulose nitrate, because here you could see the blue corrosion, which is most probably either chromium or nickel layer. These are metals meant to protect against the almost everything, and suddenly they are corroded. Then you ask yourself, okay, who done it? What's going on really in my plastic object? And it's appeared to be two plates sandwiched together, and now when the cellulose nitrate is producing gases, the gases has nowhere to escape. They start expanding, they have to find the escape route, and of course one of them plates has to give up and it starts cracking. And as soon as it starts cracking, it gets access to the humidity from outside. It doesn't need to be super duper humidity. 50%, our standard humidity in a store, is totally enough for a salt or gases like a nitric gases to start turning into the nitric acid. And the nitric acid affects the plastic, and the more cracks, the more surface we have, the more quicker it goes. So then I ask myself, all right, if that's happening, and that's happening quite quickly. So you see, 2015, August, and that's not even there 2 years. So that was when I found it, and then, yes, I must admit, I've tortured my object. I didn't do anything to protect it. I wanted to see how quickly it goes. And that was my major question. I want to answer when somebody comes with the object, and I see something, beginnings. I want to tell them, sorry, we won't take it, because in 2 years' time, it's going to be like that. We're not going to be exposing nothing more than cracks. So I've tortured my object a little bit, and as you see, it's developing very quickly. It's just about half of a year difference, and nearly not even 2 years, year and a half. Right, and then, just put together three pictures, and so that was 2012, and that's where we substituted cellulose nitrate with an acrylic plate. There is no way you can protect the elements of your object with anything. If it eats nickel, if it eats chromium, and it's a gas. Remember, if it would be a fluid, you might use the film, you might use some protection, but it's a gas. It's just going to go everywhere. Right. And the second part of my story is about the data. It's about this reference to the catalog. What do I really know about my collection? So I've been appointed as a fellow conservator to 9 museums, and I ask myself, okay, what do I really know about them 9 museums? What do they really have? So I've went to the catalogs, of course, and I've checked. So I've searched the word plast, truncated, so I get the most possible results. Gummy, which is rubber, and synthetic for synthetic fibers. So I come up now with this number about 7,000 here and nearly. And that was about 11% of 66 registered items. Question about what is registered, what is not the subject of this story, but it's significant difference. Right. And here you see in the brackets also interesting number. It's doubles, that one. So what happened here? Why it's double? It's double because not everybody in a catalog registers, for example, the same, let's say, viscose, with a generic term of a synthetic. Not, for example, bakelite, not exactly going to be always registered with a generic word plastic. So what I had to do, I had to search each particular name of a known plastic that I might probably find in our collections through the catalog and pull out that data. And that gave me another 7,000 objects. And I know the story is not fantastic, and you might think that Norway is the best in the practice, but it's not. Right, and what was the issues with the catalog? It wasn't only that people registered on a different way, but it was also semantics. It was also the grammar. In my region, people who cataloged, they come from at least 6 different national backgrounds. There are Germans, there are Swedes, there are Finnish, there are Danish people, there are Estonians, some of them. Yeah. But semantics is also very interesting. If you read the line here, it's the same material. It's celluloid. It's correctly written. So I got like a 16 hits in my catalogs, but I wrote also the way we write it in our region. And regional came with a 13. So those 13 are not necessarily the same 16 you got here. And then I thought, all right, maybe somebody made the mistake. Maybe somebody didn't know how to write it. So I wrote celluloid with 2 double L's, and I got also 4 items. And looking further, I mean, I went mad with a catalogue then, and I just thought, okay, so if it's a cellulose nitrate, I'll check cellulose nitrate. No. Nitrocellulose? No. But I found a cellulose, and among the 25 objects, mostly fabrics and textile, I found 1 cellulose. And I mean, I don't have time to play the guessing game now, but one of them is, that one is a celluloid, correctly described by the proper guys and stuff like that. But this one, guess what? It's a cellulose, if you didn't know. Next step was actually when I stopped believing my both remote control and catalog, it was to create my own catalog. And I went through each storage room. No, I'm lying now. I've chosen from each museum the storage room that might contain most of the plastic materials, and I've chosen from 50 to 100 of them. And I've created my own database where I identified plastics in my own way. And what I found out, that's the generic for a whole group of 9 museums. And these are just 2 examples for the different museums. What it shows? The orange part, it's the objects that had plastic described generically. So it's a 24% of the objects had description. Rest of them didn't have nothing at all. Situation differs. There are museums with a little bit better result, but there are museums that had nothing at all. In that group that I've searched, of course, it's not, exactly true. It might be some diverse result here, but generically. But just to assure you that we're talking about... Hello, somebody... Doesn't work. Can I ask for the next picture? Yes. To assure you that we have talked about actually the blue part that wasn't described, that there are items there that contain actually those materials. It's just to show you that among those, we have about 61% part of it that contain from 1 to 5 different plastics. 55% from 6 to 10, and over 15% that have over 10 different types of plastics in one object. I mean, the majority of them were old electronics, musical instruments and stuff like that, so it's not traditional kind of museum objects, as you might know. Have a problem? Next, please. Thank you. Just to quickly know, it's sort of conclusion. If we would knew what we have in our collections, how we would be able much better, more constructively, more proactively actually plan our actions. So here you have the brown section, brown group of plastics that are dangerous. They are not only dangerous to others, they're dangerous to themselves. We have the gray area of the plastics like PVC that might be dangerous, might not, but we need to keep an eye on them. And we have some green inert materials. It's how easy it's now really to, I don't know, plan the exhibition when you know like that, stuff like that. So you think, all right, from my group of items, I have like a 1 from this orange area. It's going to be cost of a... I have the orange group that might be costly. I mean, it might produce the problems time-wise, monetary-wise. I would need human resources to prepare that object, and I might not need to concentrate on so much on I don't know what to push here to have my... I'll use them both. So in a grey area, I don't know what to do, isn't it? Because it might be that, might be this, but green area, I don't need to really to worry. And the same way in a conservation That's my area of first reaction. I need to go there. I need to find them quick. I need to react there quick. Here, okay, that's the next step. I know those. I don't need to worry. At least not in my lifetime. No. Okay, next one. This. Yes, that works. And that's exactly the example of here. You have awesome musical instrument, and this part here, the bridge, that supports the strings, is made of cellulose nitrate. Problem was already there. You see here, they were welded by the goldsmith together at some point. But we decided to place the plastic like a sheeting. It doesn't help. The plastic sheeting, the gases just go out from it. Now, you don't stop the gases with a plastic sheet. Now, you don't stop with the paraloid. Paraloid is never 100% covering your surface. Now. So you might even cause worse situation if you cover it with a paraloid. So what we thought, okay, what we need now to do, we need to actually quality check our catalogs, and then we think, okay, we have 66,000 of them objects only registered, plus probably at least 50% are not registered. So it's nearly 100,000 of them. How do you do that? We need to update materials. It would be nice, isn't it? You open the catalog and you read what it's made of instead of just going and identifying them in situ. We need to actually update in which condition they already are in our catalogs, and we need to start talking about improving our nomenclature, and we're working on it now. In Norway we started multi-dialect project that actually you could write whatever dialect you're using or language in, and it's going to pop up in a all unique universal solution. And then I ask myself, I am really in this 21st century, I am really ready to call myself I'm working in a 21st century museum, or is there anything I need to evolve in? And yes, I think I do. And I thought now that's where I'm now. So I found out the situation, I've made my initial assessment, I'm sort of greenish about to find out what to do next. But then I thought, right, I'm standing tall now, I know what to do now, but that's not end of the line. We need to find who's going to do that, we need to find who's going to pay for that, and actually sit down and do the work. Yeah, I think it's... Thank you for me. Yeah. Thank you.